Well, despite the fact that our national state of disaster from the pandemic is over, in many ways the disaster unfortunately continues in our tourism industry, which was so badly damaged during the lockdowns here and internationally. People could not travel here because of the lockdown in our country and because of how their governments treated people coming from here around the different variants. So then, what scope is there for the recovery? Acting CEO of Tourism SA is Themba Khumalo. Themba, good afternoon to you. How is our tourism industry now compared to where it was just before the COVID pandemic?
Good afternoon, Stephen, and thank you to your viewers. Look, it is no secret that the tourism industry has been adversely affected. Firstly, due to the global lockdown and shutdown of travel, and all of the subsequent, false starts in terms of, reopening and shutting down, the changing of, various travel regulations, the various variants, that have come up, and the adverse, travel advisories that have been placed against South Africa. But I'd like to say this, that in spite of everything that has happened adversely towards the tourism sector, if we judge by what happened at Africa's Travel Indaba in May, beginning of May, when we reopened, tourism in earnest, we saw, the resilience of what the sector is all about and what South Africa as a country is all about. We got buyers in that came in large numbers from all our key markets around the world. We had exhibitors, from a South African standpoint that came in and exhibited product. We had new SMMEs that came into the fold, to exhibit and to sell product. And it was one of the best trading, Indabas that we've ever had. So that shows that, in spite of everything that has happened, we are actually, bouncing back and that, the sector will recover. So as we sit here right now, just to give you some statistics, sorry, Stephen, is we are sitting at about just below 40% of the pre-COVID numbers, in terms of international arrivals, but we have a very strong domestic market that has been able to sustain the sector during the shutdown. Sorry, back to you, sir.
No, well, I was going to say, there's a whole lot going on here. You talk about what I presume is suppressed demand. In other words, people come to the Indaba because their businesses haven't been running, and so they now have a little bit of capital, or they've been saving their money, or whatever it is that businesses do, and now they're ready to basically engage business again. Are you yet seeing people actually coming with money and spending it on going on holiday, which is really what you're going to need?
Absolutely. If you look at some of the key destinations in the country, Cape Town, Durban, Joburg, all you need to do is just go out one evening and sit in some of the more popular spots, and you'll just hear all of the different international, languages, being spoken conversationally in restaurants, etc., etc. We are also, seeing from a occupancy standpoint in hotels that, the occupancy is picking up, in some of the core areas. If you look at also, international exhibitions and meetings, that are being held, there are, big conventions that are happening here and meetings that are happening here, which was not happening, necessarily, to this extent last year. So we are seeing people coming into our economy and spending money in our economy, and we'll continue to monitor the situation, for the rest of the year. We are also seeing that, during the lockdown period, there was a reshaping of the supply side of the sector, where, a lot of the inefficiencies that were in the system had to be ironed out, where a lot of the, let me say the profit expectations, have been adjusted. So what we have now is we've got a sector that has been able to reshape itself, become a lot more, customer-centric in terms of its outlook. And I believe that we are actually in better shape now than we were, when we went into the lockdown from a supply-side efficiency standpoint.
Sure, that's an interesting comment to make. The thing about tourism is that it is a very easy way to create jobs. I mean, this is not rocket science, and trust me, Themba, I'm not an economist. You may be, but I know that I'm not. The reason I say that is that you don't need huge amounts of training to help a foreign tourist around the country. You also don't need to build a factory like you would if you wanted to do it through manufacturing. Do you think we're really going to be able to take proper advantage of those things and the fact that the natural advantages we have as South Africa, we have our coastline, we have the animals, we have our story as well. Do you think we're going to be able to take proper advantage of those things and really grow this industry and do what we really wanted to do, which is create jobs?
Absolutely, I believe that we will. So two things have happened. So at Meetings Africa, which is our big business events platform, we launched, our Open Doors campaign, which is an invitation for, all our, meetings, incentives, conventions and exhibitions and events to happen within South Africa. And we are seeing the uptake, happening quite nicely from there. At the same time, on the same platform, we launched our leisure, proposition, which is, Live Again, which is an invitation for people to come into South Africa, which they know, is a blue chip destination from an infrastructure standpoint, but also offers all the open spaces, that people have yearned for, when they were, unable to travel. So I believe that, as we go forward, we'll be able to see all of that, proposition come forth, and we'll begin to yield the economic results. Let me just say from a SMME standpoint, and you're quite right, that, the entry barriers, are pretty much low in terms of being able to create the jobs and create livelihoods in the sector. The main issue there is all about market access. So it's the ability of those small businesses to access international markets, international buyers, and be able to trade their product, globally, and that is where our focus has been. Fortunately, with all of the technology catch-up that has happened during the lockdown, it has actually enabled us to provide that market access to small businesses. So when people visit the country, when travelers visit the country, they're not only constrained to, the formal tourism product, but they're able to actually get into, some of the SMME environments and also the support industries, around, that are around the tourism sector.